Welcome to That 80 Show, the podcast where everybody knows your name as long as your name is Paulo and Dori. How are you doing this week, Dori?
Paulo, I am good.
The reason I talk about Cheers is that auctions. There's a show on Netflix called The King of Collectibles. I don't know if you've seen it. Kind of come into your space. So no. It's a guy. He's a bit of a, I don't know. I don't quite know how to make of the guy. But anyway, he runs an auction house where they collect predominantly sports memorabilia, right? And if you're a fan of US sports, like your mind boggles the kind of stuff that they auction. And they auction like sports memorabilia, baseball cards, things like that, as well as Pokemon cards, right? Okay, so it's a whole thing, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on Pokemon cards. But it kind of opens up this world of auctioning, right? Going like auctioning odd stuff or memorabilia. So I find the story that the set of Cheers, right? The actual bar, the set. So there is a guy, he's a TV archivist, right? His name is James Commissar. And he's got a collection of sets. So he's got the set of All in the Family. Did you ever watch that show? I don't know if it ever showed here. It was quite like 60s, 70s-ish. Archie Bunker.
Loved that show. It was one of my favorites as a kid.
Really? Okay,
yes.
Cool. I can't say I ever saw it. I never saw it.
Yeah, you're too young.
Right, so he's got the set of that. He's got the set of the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, that one, and then he's got the set of Cheers. Okay, so you can buy the whole set: bar stools, bar, dartboard, mugs, everything for yourself if you are that way inclined.
Well, I don't know if I'm that way inclined. I mean, I like the show a lot, don't get me wrong, but first of all, I'm not a collector type. Except for probably Lloyd Cole CDs, there's nothing that I have to have everything of.
Well, this is like a very niche, because then do you start going collecting like the Golden Girls? Do you want their set now? Do you want the set of like Three's Company?
Yeah.
Is that the niche kind of like audience that you're looking for? Somebody goes, I have to own every set of every 80s sitcom. Right? Married with Children. Do you want their house? Like, is this where you go? Who's the boss? Do you get that?
What did you get from Who's the Boss? I mean, apart from the house.
I can't remember them ever being anywhere else but the house.
I know. His van. Tony's van.
Tony Danza's van. Yes. Oh, if that van could talk. I'm telling you, that van. Lots of stories in that van. So now I'm in this auction, memorabilia space, right? So the auction house that is selling these sets called Heritage Auction. So James Commissar, he was initially wanted to put in a museum, and kind of that never happened. He wanted to make his own museum, never happened. So that's why he's auctioning it off, right? So he wants like, no, somebody must have it. I also think he wants some money. So I then go to the Heritage Auctions website to go see what else they have, right?
Okay.
So I find a section of VHS, okay, original VHS, right? So this is as you would have bought it. Now, the thing in the auction world, very boring, is that if something's not opened and it's original, it's obviously more expensive, right? So if it's an unopened pack, and I think they call it like a grade 10 or something, or 10, whatever. So that's kind of your highest. So all of these are grade 10. So this is like if you had to go buy a VHS or a Betamax in the 80s and the world ended then, that'd be the quality of it, unopened. There is Superman, Star Wars, Rocky, Ghostbusters, Jaws, Goonies, Rambo. But I'm going to give you some of the prices here.
How do you know that these are the original ceilings? Like, what if people just resealed? You can reseal something.
No, it gets graded. So it has to go to, this is what I learned in King of Collectibles. It has to go to an independent, there's companies that do it that examine it now, and they'll be able to tell you that it's been resealed.
Okay.
Because remember that ceiling, actually, when you used to buy a VHS, Like not when you rented it. Did you ever buy VHSs?
Yes, I owned some until very recently. I only literally last year threw some out.
Okay, and do you remember that sealing though, the plastic that they wrapped it in?
Yes,
That you can't replicate with modern technology. That was state of the 80s.
I know what you mean, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the most satisfying things that I think we've forgotten in this generation. So now a VHS box, right? The cassette, the box. It had the little ridge like in the middle where you could put your fingers in and flick it open.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So firstly, super satisfying when you closed it and it's sealed nicely, because eventually they'd warp and then it wouldn't like catch properly. But when it's sealed nicely, but also when you bought the original and you popped your finger in there and you popped that plastic seal and I could rip off the plastic. Right? So none of these people who collected these
didn't take a lot to amuse us in those days.
Didn't really? Like, our brains are so small. So the most expensive that you can buy is Superman 1 on Betamax, right? So that's got to be ultra rare. Superman 1, original Clark Kent, Christopher Reeves appearing for the first time as Superman, $40,000. That's what it sold for.
These prices, I'm looking at this, these prices are insane.
It is
$40,000. I mean, what else can you buy for $40,000? A very decent car, like a very decent car.
A not insignificant apartment you can buy for $40,000. You know,
but no, I'd rather have a Betamax of Superman.
And that's not even, and that's Betamax. Like, I wonder if I couldn't find if the VHS is cheaper. Because Betamax has got to be more rare because it had like a short window. So the Betamax, 40,000 Rand. Star Wars, first Star Wars, $32,500. I said Rand earlier, dollars.
Yeah. No, you said dollars.
Dollars. Rocky, $27,500. The first Rocky.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters, $23,000. Jaws, $32,000. Goonies.
I can't believe the price of the Goonies. I can't believe it.
This is the most expensive. $50,000 for Goonies. 50. Like, I can get the Superman that you want to pay for that, but Goonies for 50,000. Goonies. You haven't even watched it. You haven't watched it.
It's insane.
Then you got Rambo First Blood, 22,500. Top Gun, 17,500. Raiders of the Lost Ark, 7,000. Now we get into the realm of affordable.
Then it just drops dramatically. It drops down.
Predator, 3,500. The first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1990, was made in 1989, $4,875. You know you can't find that movie anywhere.
But that is still an insane amount of money. That's a lot of money. But why can't you find that movie anywhere?
I don't know. It must be caught up in this myriad of rights because you cannot find it on any streaming service. It's just like disappeared. All the Ninja Turtles movies. I've looked for them.
But can you find it on other places?
Maybe.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
So listen, if anyone is interested in it, it is Heritage Auctions, and you can speak to Jay Carlson. He's the consignment director, and he's going to get that delicious $40,000. He
looks like a friendly dude.
He does look quite friendly. You know what the thing is?
A photo of him?
You'll get this, and you can't even watch it. Oh, you can do a free appraisal. So you can actually send your VHSs to them, and they'll appraise it and tell you what it's worth.
What is now? I really regret throwing those VHS tapes out last year. Damn it!
I know.
I'll tell you what I had. I had Monsters Inc. and some sort of music. I had some music stuff. I had a Simply Red VHS, like a whole bunch of their music videos.
Right.
I cannot even remember what the other one was. I'll be honest. There were 3.
That was a thing. Like you could buy cassettes of music videos, and we bought them.
Yeah. Oh, it was so exciting to have that, because then you could watch the music video whenever you wanted. You didn't have to wait for Pop Shop on Friday night. And who bet your shoulders somebody's going to be on?
I was at a market over the past weekend, and there was a guy selling vinyls, right? And he had quite a lot of the pop shops, and one of them, it wasn't his original signature, but the way they designed it looked like Carl Kilkillis had signed it himself. Like the album, like, whoa, this is his seal of approval. But it wasn't. I looked close. It wasn't his original signature. You know what's the thing? So you can buy the VHSs. So not only should you not open it once you've spent that money, they don't sell VHS players at heritage auctions. So even if you wanted to, you couldn't watch it. So
I don't understand. So these people who paid like $40,000 and $50,000, I reckon they bought them as an investment. They're not opening them. They're hoping that in 10 years' time they can sell them for $100,000. That's what they're hoping.
No, you don't go spend that. I mean, that goes straight into a vault. Like human hands don't touch it. Touch it with gloves.
Yeah.
You're not watching that.
Let's just remind you that you're talking about Goonies.
I'll tell you what though. Buying a 40-year-old, I mean, Superman, that's 43 years old, makes way more sense. Betamax, like a piece of technology that like barely, I think only mini disc and laser disc were less revered as technology. I think they had a shorter space in the sun. They make a hell of a lot more sense than NFTs.
Oh, for sure.
Right? That whole thing finished. NFTs just went away. Like AI killed NFTs. Like all the NFT bros are like now chat.
The metaverse is dead. The metaverse doesn't exist.
Died. It completely died. Like people were telling me, "Oh, this is the next big thing. We all got to do the metaverse."
So my question is, sorry to bring us right out of the 80s, but my question is, what happened to all those people who spent so much money buying property in the metaverse? What do they do now?
What do they do?
Gone.
They go sell it for magic beans. That's what they do. And but it's always those bros, and they're always on LinkedIn. You know, they're like, you got to get into it's metaverse. 10 tips of buying in the metaverse. 10 tips of investing in NFTs. 10 ways ChatGPT will make you $1 million by the end of this week. It's like, who are you people? Like, why don't you commit to something that's definitely got a future, like podcasting, like us, right? That's definitely the way forward.
and buying vintage Betamax and VHS. That's the future, clearly.
I would not have the discipline to not watch it.
But you could watch it anyway.
No, but like that's flex, right? Like a few years ago, the Wu-Tang Clan put out an album, but they put out one copy of it, right? And they put it on auction. And some douchebag guy, he got involved. He was some Ponzi scheme guy, bought it. And so Wu-Tang Clan said, look, we are putting this, and when you buy it, you can do whatever you want with it. It went for a fortune. They said, do whatever you want with it. If you want to release it, if you want to make copies of whatever you do, like you do it, right? Hoping that a good person would buy it and now, release the music. This douchebag didn't. He kept it in the safe. Said, fuck everyone. Only I'm going to listen to those new Wu-Tang Clan songs. And then he's got involved in some Ponzi scheme or something. What a douchebag. You should give it to the people. So if you have like a 1980 Superman Betamax, how much would you pay for a Superman BMX? That's a good investment.
I've got an idea to market a new product. I wouldn't pay anything for any of them because I'm not the audience. I'm not that person.
So you may be a person for this. So obviously you now go in this auction rabbit hole. VHSs in the same section, movie memorabilia. I find a vehicle. Now we've seen movie vehicles go for auction. Like remember when Michael Knight, David Hasselhoff, put out his stuff for auction a few years ago. He had that life-size boat of him from SpongeBob, the SpongeBob movie.
God.
Remember that?
I will never unsee that, ever. Never.
God. And he also put up for auction his personal Knight Rider kit, his personal kit that he used, that they gave him at the end of the series. We've seen the DeLorean. There was a DeLorean, DOS DeLoreans, because remember in South Africa there was a DeLorean on auction, and they gave you a spare DeLorean for parts.
Yes. Buy one, get one free.
That's fantastic. So here is a movie vehicle now, very 1980s.
Oh, this is 70s, dude. This is
70s, but this movie came out in 1980, and I watched it in the 80s.
Because these movies,
I absolutely loved it, because all these movies were 70s, but this one particular, because I think this is the one set in Brazil, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. I just remember watching it as a kid and absolutely loving it.
Oh, we loved it. We're talking about a 1961 Herbie VW Beetle from Herbie Goes Bananas, the one they used in Herbie Goes Bananas.
And do you remember, because, I mean, I don't remember lots from the movie, but I remember that the car's name was Ocho, which translates to 8. And someone said to the kid, why is the car named 8? And he said, because 5 plus 3 is 8, because the number 53 is on the car.
Yeah, fantastic.
I've never forgotten that.
Herbie Goes Bananas is my favorite one. Actually, looking at this, the engine is look at the engine. It's like a generator. There's one picture there with the hell. There's a generator in the front. So you can buy it. You can make an offer to the owner, $318,000 or more. So they if you don't want to go to auction, you can buy it. It's in pretty shitty condition, I gotta say.
That is a ton of money. Like,
I know. I said it like it was nothing. I said it like it was nothing.
I mean, how much is a Ferrari? Or like a really fancy sports car? How much is a fancy sports car?
Yeah, probably about. See, I don't even know. It's like all that POA. It's like if I see POA,
I'm actually going to look it up.
Yeah, when I see a POA, it's like Paulo, don't ask. I know that's not the exact acronym, but it's like no, I know, don't ask. But it's not like it's in great condition. It's like pretty beat up. Exterior exterior looks okay. Inside's an absolute mess. It's like wires everywhere, stains. You're not getting, because you're still going to put a fair bit. Well, unless maybe it's more valuable as original. But you're still going to put it, if you want to, you're going to put a fair bit of money.
Yeah, it depends what your purpose is for buying it, right? By the way, a new Ferrari can go for anything between $243,000 and $524,000. So yes, this is more expensive than your bottom range Ferrari. Okay,
you see. So now, but the thing though, why it's a bit beaten up, because this is the actual one that they used in the movie. That's why they had a generator in the front, because VW's got the boot in the front, right?
Yeah.
So it has the modifications to the vehicle to create the Herbie Magic, which involves a linked gear shift in the back of the car so that somebody else could drive. The operator could shift gears from the back position. So while they're filming, the actors aren't really driving. Someone's driving it from the back. It's got the dings from the movie. So where they actually hit it in certain scenes, it's those original dings. And there's been some other bumps, which they fixed that.
I'm looking at this picture of the interior of like the behind the seats. It's so weird.
But that's it, because it was all practical. They didn't use CGI. I mean, if Herbie did stuff, they were controlling from the back. So I suppose that's okay. But that's still a hell of a lot of money.
It looks so dirty, though. I mean, I hate to be that person, but it looks so dirty
and stinky. I mean, because this went to Brazil. Yeah. This went to Brazil. Brazil's humid. Brazil's hot.
Wow. I can't believe that price. This is insane.
Definitely an odor. But, Dori, the thing is, when this show finally goes interstellar and we get those millions and millions of Joe Rogan type dollars, we're buying all this shit. Like, you and I are definitely buying it.
I am buying that David Hasselhoff boat thing, and putting it in my bedroom.
Well, what happens from there, who's to say? But We'll definitely buy all of this shit.
You're going to buy Dos Lorians.
Buy a fleet of all 80s TV show cars and movie cars and race them. Take a tour, do a cannonball run across the world. That's what
that would be amazing.
So, movies, Dori, you have been teasing me with what's going to happen with your movie recommendation this week for weeks.
A recommendation is very much not the right word, but okay.
Okay.
I can't say if it's a recommendation.
Okay.
Because
so
I
what
haven't
is it?
seen the movie.
Dori is always teasing with her shenanigans. So what's going on? What's happening?
So there was a movie that I've wanted. Okay, it's all coming up, but basically, there's a movie that came into my knowledge, and I thought, I need to give this a shot, and I've been scared. I was scared, and so I called our trusty friend Dom, who I called last time when I was scared, and he helped me out.
Okay. So you spoke to him, got a pre-recorded piece. Are you going to intro it, or Dom, everything's in the piece, sit back?
It's all in there. It's all in there. Just press play.
All right, here we go. I don't know what's going to happen. I haven't even listened to this yet, by the way.
Good.
I haven't even listened to myself. I want to be surprised.
Good. I'm joined again by our friend Dom, who has been on the show before. And the reason I called Dom for help this week is that there is a movie I've been wanting to watch. And wanting is actually the wrong word. There is a movie I have been thinking I must watch called Society, and I just don't have the balls. That's the only way to describe it. It just looks too horrific and too gross, and I chickened out, but I knew that Dom would come through for me because he loves disturbing, gross things. Hi, Dom. Welcome back to That 80s Show.
Hey, Dori. Thanks for having me on the show again.
I can always rely on you to do gross, disturbing things, Dom.
Okay, I'm going to take that in context, but fair enough. Yeah, no, I do have a love for all things disturbing and gross, and Society fits exactly into that category.
So let me quickly, before we get into it, tell you, so I didn't know that this movie existed until, a while back when I was talking about body horror, and I can't even remember, it might have been when I did Street Trash or one of those other movies on the show, and kind of delved into the whole, what do they call them, melt movies, body horror movies, that like whole B grade genre. And we have watched a few together in our time. And
Indeed.
I didn't know that Society was a thing. I saw it and then thought, okay, that looks like something that I would maybe watch one day. And then I was actually reading a blog post by one of my favorite writers, Sam Beck-Bessinger. She's written some cool books, and she has a really amazing blog. And she did this beautiful, beautiful blog post about her dad. And she kind of talks a lot about her childhood and stuff like that. And she loves horror. And she mentions Society in the blog post, and she says, there is literally a part where a man is turned inside out. If you don't believe me, here, watch this. And she puts a link to the clip on YouTube. And I haven't even had the guts to watch that clip. But I thought, oh goodness, I need to do this movie. Downloaded the movie to watch and still haven't done it. So I'm like, no. Let's just get Dom's take on it, and maybe one day I'll have the guts to give it a try. Guts probably being the key word here. But tell us about Society, Dom.
Yeah, so it's, as you say, it's an absolute classic, released in 1989. It's got an interesting story behind it. Brian Usner, the director, he was a producer on some of the most iconic 80s horror movies, for example, From Beyond, as well as Reanimator. So he used to produce Stuart Gordon's movies, and Society is his first directorial attempt, and a pretty good one at that. So it's essentially the story of a guy growing up. He's in his late teens, and he starts wondering whether his family are perfectly normal. It's a slow burn paranoia movie to start with, where he's not quite sure if there's some kind of massive conspiracy going on, whether or not his parents and his sister are who they say they are. And it just gets crazier and crazier from there. I mean, the general sort of theme of the movie, if you take away all the disgusting horror, is essentially how the upper class leeches off the lower class. It's quite a indictment of the power balance between the haves and the have-nots. Billy, who's the lead character, played by an actor with the fabulous name of Billy Warlock, who used to be in Baywatch, apparently.
Yes, I thought I knew that name.
Yeah, I mean, it's unforgettable. But yeah, he plays Billy, and slowly things around him start seeming very weird. There are other kids trying to tell him that things aren't all that they seem to be, and he often visits his psychiatrist, who we slowly learn is also in on the conspiracy. What that conspiracy is left to the final climax of the movie, but it takes the metaphor of the rich leeching off the poor and turns that into very literal reality. As you say, the end of it contains some of the best body horror that I believe has ever been put on film. Special effects by a man who goes under the moniker of Screaming Mad George, who was also quite a figure in the 80s horror genre. He went on later to do the special effects on James Gunn's Slither, which is, an interesting point, because Slither itself takes inspiration from a number of movies, and Society is definitely one of them. So as you say, there's a final climax that goes on for a good 20 minutes that just contains some of the grossest, bloodiest, most outrageous and outlandish special effects that you've ever seen.
Sure. Okay. It's certainly not convincing me to give it a try, but I do like the fact that it sounds like it's got some meaning and subtext and I guess politics behind it even, which is interesting. Like it could be a film school type movie.
No, I don't imagine anyone would show this in a class. But the satire is strong. But I wouldn't say it's necessarily the best movie ever. But at the same time, probably the movie that has the wildest ending that one has ever seen. As you said in your introduction, there are scenes of evisceration, sticking your hand up people's orifices and coming out another orifice. As you said, someone being turned inside out by having a hand stuck up their bottom and then pulling. Just absolutely crazy. And what starts off as a metaphor in terms of how do the rich leech off the poor become something very literal, as all of these characters, we're not quite sure if they're even human. They may be something alien. And they suddenly decide at the end of the movie that they're going to have the final, let's call it orgy, because that's essentially what it is. Absolutely crazy.
No spoiler alerts here, because I mean, it's not that kind of movie. I don't think that you're going to be like, oh, damn. Dan, you've
No,
ruined the
no
ending,
spoiler
Dom.
alerts at all. I mean, I think everyone kind of anticipates what's going to happen at the end. When you first watch it, obviously, you have no clue about what's going to happen. So any first-time viewer will be utterly amazed and disgusted because,
Horrified.
there's a line that one should definitely not cross, and this movie gleefully romps over that line and goes much further than you think it should. I imagine 90% of the budget went into this final 20 minutes, where the special effects are, iconic and absolutely brilliant, and ends up in this kind of quivering flesh orgy / drain the essence of the poor people, including his parents and his sister. There's all kinds of suggestions of incest, and
it sounds like a lot. And I mean, if I know Paulo, my co-host, he could barely deal with that scene in The Boys. You know which scene I'm talking about, I'm sure.
Yes.
He could barely deal with that, so I don't think he would manage this movie. But thank you, Dom. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, look, I think for anyone listening who hasn't watched Society, it's definitely one to put on your list.
Yeah.
It is gross, it's entertaining, it's fun. And as I said, if it's your first time watching, well, then buckle your seatbelt because it's going to be a really bumpy ride. Things deteriorate at a massive rate, let's put it that way.
So, Dori.
Yes.
I'm sure people, while listening to that, went, have you seen this movie?
I have not. That's what I said. I'm too scared to watch it. That's why I asked Dom to review it. That being said, I think I'm now quite curious, and I think I am going to try it.
How did you, just because, like you say, you've spoken about other body horror movies and kind of this is the gold standard, right?
Well, it just came up. I remember when I went down the rabbit hole for one of our other movies, it came up, just the poster came up, and the poster looked very interesting. So I knew of its existence, but I didn't know much more than that. And then it was really just that blog post that I referred to where she writes about it. And I was like, oh yeah, that movie. And then I was like, okay, I must watch it. And then I couldn't do it. But now I might. Besides, Dom always gives such a great review, so I thought it was a good opportunity to get him on.
Well, let's address that first. I mean, Dori knows movies way better than me. On the show, we talk about movies, but we talk shit about movies. Dom gives you a proper movie review.
Proper.
You and him should have a proper movie review podcast because he gives you proper subtext, meaning he knows other movies, he knows their reference, he's real deal. So are you, but I'll drag you down.
I like being dragged down. It was a little bit highbrow.
Okay, good. Because while I was listening to that, I now go Google some and look for some trailers of this movie, and specifically the final scene. And I come up with a video called Final Butthead Scene. Okay.
No. Yeah.
So I suspected something was up when I'm watching the trailer and there's a shot of a woman, but she's lying on a bed, suggestively with a sheet over her. She's now facing you, but her body doesn't look like it's one body. So her body and her head is facing the screen, but her legs are pointing the other way. And it's like, okay, you wouldn't twist that way. But I thought, okay, maybe it's a second woman in the bed, and that's kind of the reveal. No. Do you know what the final scene is about?
About the guy being turned inside out.
Well, as far as you get, and I'm sure YouTube will not allow all of these to be on. But the young Baywatch boy, Billy Warlock, walks into a room and he looks on the bed and there is a woman. I assume it could be his mother. Because I think in another trailer, I think it's his mother. And the top half of her body is on the bed. but in the rest of the bed are two man's arms, like kind of under her. So you go, oh, is somebody else under the sheet? She then stands up, and her legs are man's arms, right? So he freaks out now, and he like stumbles back because now, oh my God, my mother is now obviously not a human being. She has men's arms as legs.
Okay.
Her baby region comes to him, and a woman's head pops out of it. Okay. But wait, Dori. Because he now gets frightened by this and turns around, and there is now the back part, a man's buttocks. A man is now on all fours, a man's buttocks. But a literal butt face is, instead of a bum, there is a face at the back of the man. This is this movie you have brought to that 80s show, Dori. I think we are done.
Come on, we have to explore all aspects of the 1980s, and this was one of them.
Listen, they explored a lot of aspects in that scene. People say, how will you know when it's time when the 80s show is done? Will you run out of things? No. This is the moment where I think we're done. There is a man's butt. And this freaks me out less than the scene from The Boys. That scene. I can watch this. I got no problem with this. That scene from The Boys, I'll vomit if I ever see that again.
So you're going to watch this movie?
I've seen enough. I got to be honest. I've seen enough. I don't need to see that show.
I'm going to watch it. I think I'm going to watch it. I don't know when. I'm not making promises, but I'll report back when I do. And yes, I don't think I'll ever be able to follow this up with another movie review. So maybe my movie reviews are done.
I think we retire the segment. I mean, if you're not going to watch it, just watch Final Butthead Scene. We're not going to post it up. We're just going to remind you. We're not going to actually put the link. We're just going to remind you to Google it. We don't want that heat on us. But it's the Final Butthead Scene.
Hey, if it exists on YouTube, we won't get in trouble. It exists on YouTube.
I suppose. It's terrible, Dori. Okay, so that is Dori's movie, Society. How do you follow that up? I mean, that is...
I did warn you.
You did. You did. Thank you. You did warn me. My God. Okay. Let me get into my movie this week.
Is it going to be light after that? Nice and light.
Very light. Ridiculously light. It involves... It's a movie that stars Dr. Johnny Fever. Right?
Oh, love it.
Yeah. So that's already way lighter. There are no bums coming out of people's faces coming out of people's bums in my movie. It also stars Dan Aykroyd in his first top billed role. Okay, first time he was the main actor. A few weeks ago, we did Couch Trip.
Yes.
Again, I thought, is Dan Aykroyd playing a doctor twice? Is he now a doctor in two movies? Like, what's going on? He's a doctor in terms of he's a university professor. The movie's called Dr. Detroit, by the way. Dr. Detroit.
Wow.
Stars,
I've never heard of that. Never heard of
very
it.
Early 80s. Yeah, I find these things, Dori. Dan Aykroyd, Howard Hessman, and a very young Fran Drescher. Fran Drescher before The Nanny. So, and guest starring Shenanigans. So it's an 80s movie that is the high point of Shenanigans. So Howard Hessman plays a mobster. He's a pimp, a mobster and a pimp, and he owes a rival mobster $80,000, which is like quite weird. That's not a lot of money. I mean, that barely buys you Goonies and a Superman VHS, right?
But how much was it in the 80s?
True. Okay, but $80,000, it's not a lot of money. Anyway, so he says, I can't pay you this money because some other pimp is on my turf, and you've got to deal with him. Because Howard Hessman's like, no. I can't take this out. I'm just a pimp. This mobster's got to take this guy out and get me out of my debt. And he then befriends, so he now makes up this character. He goes, okay, I've now got to find a stoolie, a fall guy for this. So they're at a club and they come across Dan Aykroyd's character. And he's like this really weird and eccentric university professor does speed walking. He's a bit of an odd guy, and they find him on a night out. And now the pimp with his three prostitutes, it's four prostitutes. They now give him the night of his life, right? They hone in on him, take him out, do all the things with him. There's jacuzzis, there's drug taking, and just give him the best night of his life. And then
so basically an average Saturday night out in the 80s for normal people.
Basically, especially somebody who would have seen more and worse, having been friends with John Belushi. so Dan Aykroyd saw a lot of shit. There was a lot of method acting, right? So then after this night out, the pimp character disappears. He runs away. He goes, no, fuck this. I'm out and I'm going to get this guy taken out. And the prostitutes now convince him, because now he feels a responsibility because he feels they like him. And they now convince him to take on this character, this other pimp, this Dr. Detroit, and pretend he's the pimp. Or else, if the whole things go awry, 80 shenanigans, the prostitutes now belong to the mobster. The mobster is actually a woman called Mom. Okay, so it's played by an elderly woman. She's the mobster. And she says, well, if the debt's not paid, I'm taking your hoes. And then so Dan Aykroyd's like, no, I love these hoes. So I'm going to play into this Dr. Detroit character.
So not a politically correct movie.
No, not at all. Not at all. Although, I mean, listen, it highlights the plight of sex workers. So I think it had really ingrained a message, back in the 80s. Yeah. This movie gets like so fucking weird, as if it's not weird already. Dan Aykroyd then, to play this Dr. Detroit character, puts on this outlandish wig, real pimp style. He's got a metal hand for some reason. This character has a metal hand. And now it's just a whole bunch of shenanigans to now pay off the debt or put off the mobster and keep his hose. And at one point, it all culminates at the Players' Ball, which is the annual convention to recognize the best pimp in America. Okay.
Is this a real thing? Like, it's not a real thing. Never mind. It's probably not a real thing.
Well, hold on here. The Players' Ball, it is actually a real thing. Oh, shit. No. I didn't even click on that.
No.
I thought the Players' Ball is an annual gathering of pimps held in Chicago. Other Players' Ball take across the country. It was first held back. So the first one was held in 1999 and took inspiration from Dr. Detroit.
That makes more sense.
That makes a lot more sense. So this is a real thing, a real Players' Ball. In Dr. Detroit, though, James Brown makes a guest appearance as a performer at the Players' Ball.
Would they have booked him at the real one in the 1990s?
Hey, I'm telling you, they did. They must have. If they must have got James Brown out to come perform at the real Players' Ball, and of course, Mom is defeated, and there is a big party for all the pimps and hoes, and it never really explains what happened to the hoes. Okay. Did they stay with him? They probably did. He probably turned into life as pimp, because at the end of the movie, in the closing credits, they tease the sequel, which never happened, of course.
Of course.
Fun fact of this movie, Devo did the title song called Dr. Detroit. If you've ever seen a Devo listing, because Devo did more than one song. They did more than Whip It. Maybe Whip It would have been good. Maybe Whip It is used in this. Kind of fits with the theme. So this week I bring you a movie. I mean, listen, you bought me a movie I can't even compete with. But I bring you a movie starring Dan Aykroyd.
I like it. I'm happy.
James Brown, Devo, and Fran Drescher. Imagine pulling those out of a hat and going, all these people appeared and existed in the same place in the 80s.
I'd watch it just for the cast.
Only in the 80s. And I even forgot Dr. Johnny Fever.
Love him.
You see, that's why I did watch it, because I saw the cast. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And you actually forget, because we kind of like Fran Drescher was so big in The Nanny and so annoying. We actually forget, like, she's actually a really good actress and really not annoying at all.
And that's not her real voice.
Not at all. No, never in a million years. So it's good to see her, Dan Aykroyd at his manic best, and that is my movie, Dr. Detroit, and not a bad Devo song either. That the song Dr. Detroit is not bad at all. When you first hear it, he is Dan Aykroyd is speed walking, so kind of like if you want to speed walk to Devo.
Oh, that's speed walking song.
Yeah, speed walking song. So that is our movie low points on that 80s show, Society and Dr. Detroit.
Quite a range this week.
You know what the tagline of Dr. Detroit is?
What?
He's making the world safe for insanity.
All right. I like it.
Gotta love a hoe. You gotta love your hoes. Players Ball, I think that's what, I never clicked on that earlier. There's actually a real Players Ball where they celebrate pimps.
But
it's expected.
Aren't pimps illegal? Like, aren't you risking your life as such by going to this ball and saying, yes, I am a criminal?
I would imagine they're not like real pimps. They're kind of like pimps. You know? I wouldn't imagine. I think it's just like people come dressed up as pimps, but they're probably not real pimps. You know what I mean?
Because real pimps don't play.
Exactly. Pimps don't play that shit. So on that 80s show, we love Michael J. Fox. Love him. Love us some Michael J. Fox. And today, actually, he's been teasing for a long time, is his documentary Still. Right? You heard about that?
Yes, we spoke about it on the show a while back. Yes.
Yeah. So that's on Apple TV. I haven't checked this morning. It's out today, right? Out today.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm going to watch that.
Why?
I don't. Man, I can't. I think so. I mean, you're not supposed to see your heroes like that. I mean, and it's brave what he's doing. I mean, he's obviously doing it he's not doing it for my satisfaction, but yeah. So it's quite no holds barred, right? He comes out and he tells like his whole story dealing with Parkinson's. Very brave. So what, like the kind of pre-reviews are like fantastic, really brave, Michael J. Fox. He brings up one part of it, which has come out obviously the week before. They start releasing little bits and pieces. Michael J. Fox can't remember all the women he dated back in the 1980s. Okay. So he now struggles to recall his wild child youth and has very few memories of all the partners he romanced back in the day, right? He says when he looks back at that period, it's obviously now in the documentary, he says when preparing for the documentary, he says, it seems crazy looking at all the girls I dated and I can't even remember doing it. So for example, he dated Susanna Hoffs from the Bangles and he doesn't remember it. Well, he did, and he doesn't remember it, right? They dated briefly in 1986. Yeah. And so he doesn't remember who he dated. For research purposes, I Googled, who did Michael J. Fox date in the 80s? And found a website called who'sdatedwho.com.
Oh.
There's such a thing. So you can go look. There's Robert Downey Jr.'s there, Johnny Depp's there, Matthew Broderick's there. They didn't date each other, but you can search them. So, of course, Michael J. Fox, you can imagine why I found the story. Google alert Susanna Hoffs pops up. Michael J. Fox.
Exactly. I was just about to say, I know exactly.
Golden.
How we came to the story.
Golden.
Also, you would never forget dating Susanna Hoffs. Let's just point that out.
No.
You know?
No.
Yeah.
So he dated Susanna Hoffs. He dated Jennifer Grey.
That I actually think I remember.
Yeah. In 1986, he dated, so Susanna Hoffs and Jennifer Grey in 1986. Okay. That's who he dated. He dated Kari Michelson, who also dated Andy Gibb.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know who these people, I mean, I know who Andy Gibb is. I don't know who she is.
So now's the skip. She seemed to have dated, because Michael J. Fox and her dated 1985 to 1986. And that seems to be the same time she was dating Andy Gibb. And the same time he was dating Susanna Hoffs and Jennifer Grey.
Ooh. So you're saying there's overlap?
Huge. Maybe it was timelines. Maybe he is time traveling and just dating like in different, offshoot universes. He also dated Sarah Jessica Parker. She was kind of like just popping up in a few things in the 80s, but she wasn't like Sex in the City.
She was with Robert Downey Jr. for a very long time.
We can check that out. I can click and we can see.
No, I'm telling you, they dated for ages.
She dated.
I know, because I was figuring out how to bury Robert Downey Jr. and I had to figure out my obstacles, The
competition. Yeah, the competition. Then some other actress, you may know her, Nancy McKeown. I don't know, McKeown.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, from The Facts of Life. Joe, from The Facts of Life, my favorite.
Oh, is that who she is? Okay, cool. He dated her. That's natural. Child stars. Same circle.
That's cool. Yeah.
And then someone called Carla Michelle, a Puerto Rican actress. Don't know who that is.
That's quite a lot of people.
He was Michael J. Fox.
But I always think of Michael J. Fox as being settled down with his wife, because they've been together for forever.
1988.
So I don't really think of him, being a player.
Yeah. 1988. That's when. So exactly, because you don't think about it, because it's like, okay, but of course he was Michael J. Fox, king of the world. So that's who he dated. But he does remember one story, and this is revealed in Still. In the 80s, when they go to the UK now to do the premiere of Back to the Future, Princess Diana is obviously invited, and Michael J. Fox now sits next to her. Okay? So he's now sitting next to Princess Diana. He's like, I needed to go to the toilet. Okay. He's like, oh, God. I know how long this movie is. I'm busting. I need to go to the toilet. But he had just been given a whole list of things to do that he could and couldn't say to Princess Diana. He was like, no, you can't talk to her, can't do this, can't look her in the eye, can't turn to stone.
Definitely can't say, please may I come past you, I need the loo.
He definitely cannot say, I need to get up, I need to go to the loo. So I sat there in pain for the whole time, and that was kind of the formula for that part of my life. Sitting there in pain.
Shame, man.
Michael J. Fox, from dating to Diana. Maybe they went for a drink. Who knows? He was obviously very charming. Obviously had something. And forgetting that he dated Susanna Hoff.
I thought he was very cute. I had a little bit of a thing for Michael J. Fox in my youth, so I get it.
Everyone did.
I get it.
Everyone did. Yeah, everyone did. He was just the guy. So that's his documentary Still. I think it's on Apple TV, I saw. So that's out. Rather watch that than Dori's Movie Society.
I agree.
You will definitely not see a head coming out of a woman's vajayjay. That's not what you're going to see. Everything we spoke about on the show today, you can hear that. We can find That 80 Show essay on Facebook. I think this is the first time I've plugged it today, so let me plug it a second time. That 80 Show essay on Facebook. We will remind you to go look for the literal butt face scene from Society. It changes now. There's a bar in Joburg or a restaurant in Joburg called Society. I will not go there.
I know.
Alien orgies.
I don't think it's based on the movie.
Yeah, bloody well hopped. It is in 4 ways though, so it's who knows what happens in those lifestyle estates. That 80 Show essay Facebook, where find the podcast, That 80 Show essay, wherever you get your podcast. I can't believe I just said that. I hate myself. Thanks for joining me, Dori. Goodbye.
Bye.